Heather,
Hey, Mike, how are you today?
and yourself.
Doing good. What's new with you?
Oh, let's see. Since the last live stream 2 weeks ago, I did a trip to the Grand Canyon, and there was the annual big gaming show in Las Vegas, the Global Gaming Expo.
Oh, how is that?
Oh, it's the same every year. I think I've gone every year since 1999, and it all starts to look the same.
Was it back to pre-COVID levels?
I don't think so. Probably about 80%. But one thing is, I think that they somehow hid all the food vendors to some other place because it used to be that people like me would try to sneak into the food part to get a free lunch. Uh, so I think that they caught on to that and somehow hid all those people.
Too bad. That was fun.
Yeah.
Well, if you guys are watching, for the viewers out there, thank you for joining us. If you have a question you would like to ask Michael Shackelford, please put it in the chat and we will answer it in the order that it is received. How was your trip to the Grand Canyon?
Yeah. Well, first of all, nice pumpkin outfit.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, the trip to the Grand Canyon was celebrating a friend's 60th birthday. And I hiked from the South Rim down to Phantom Ranch and back. So that was fun. And had another full day. I rented a bicycle and did every single bike path there is on the South Rim. Everything that was on my map, including going all the way to Hermit's Rest and I think it's called Yamaki Point or something like that, and all the way to Tuscayan. So yeah, probably the other day did about I don't know, probably about 40 miles of bike riding. So yeah, it was a good trip. I have been to the Grand Canyon many times before, so it wasn't anything significantly new. Nevertheless, I always love the Grand Canyon and happy to return.
Awesome. How hot was it?
Oh, it was nice. I would say the South Rim was around 90, and Phantom Ranch at the bottom was somebody remarked it was 102. So the weather was nice. It was crowded though. Grand Canyon in early October will be crowded, and this all was on a weekend too. So, but I made the best of it. That was one good thing about riding a bike is I could get around without having to rely on the buses, which had long lines. And once you
Nice.
got in them, they were quite crowded.
How wide is the trail? Because I'm assuming when you're biking, what I have in my mind is a really small trail and then a really deep drop.
Okay, so the bike trails are not do not go into the canyon. Those are just around the South Rim. So I the trail itself. So I went down what's called the South Kaibab Trail and went up the Bright Angel Trail. So there's two main ways to get down from the South Rim, and the trail is pretty wide, and it's a very simple trail. I will say that, like I said before, it was crowded, and everyone wants to start like at first light. So there is like a huge crowd, there at the South Kaibab Trail heading down. Like I probably started walking at 7:30 a.m. So, and you would see like big groups that were together, and it was, if they were going slow, it was kind of tough to pass these big clusters of people. But eventually you did, and yeah, it was all fine.
Well, that sounds like fun.
Yep.
Again, I want to remind our viewers that if you have a question to ask Michael Shackelford, please put it in the chat. I want to bring up something that we talked about last week. Someone asked us what our favorite conspiracy theory that we believe in is. And then, of course, the next day I thought of something. So I couldn't think of anything when we were on the live stream, but I thought of something the next day. My favorite conspiracy theory that I believe in is when I play Yahtzee with Mike, I believe that every single time I zero out Yahtzee, I'm going to get a Yahtzee after that.
Okay. I wouldn't file that as a conspiracy theory, but more of just a myth. It's called confirmation bias, where you tend to remember things that fit what you already believe and you forget the things that don't fit that. So, as you said, Heather's complained about this privately with me, that every time she puts in a zero for Yahtzee, she immediately gets one. But my version is she hates to put a zero for Yahtzee, but sometimes it's late in the game and she doesn't have much choice. And usually when she does that, she does not get a Yahtzee. But whenever she does, she makes a lot of noise about it and says this happens every time. But my version is it doesn't. So you guys can believe whoever you want. I don't know what's going on, but I seem to have lost Heather. But this has happened before. So I'm going to hope that she comes back. And I'm just going to look at the questions myself. Let's see. Dalbrixon asks, hey, Heather, I lost you for a second there.
Sorry about that. My internet dropped.
Okay. I was in the middle of reading a question here from the audience. So
Okay.
Dalbrixon asks, how many unicyclists are there globally? So the population of the Earth is about 8 billion, I believe. And I'm going to say that maybe one person in 1,000 can ride a unicycle. So let's divide 8 billion by 1,000 and we get 8 million. So I'm going to go with 8 million unicyclists in the world. And with that, I will let you, Heather, screen the future questions. And also, I do have some trivia.
Okay.
In honor of the election coming up, today's trivia will be about the Electoral College. So I'm going to start with some easy and simple ones that everyone should know. And as usual, no searching. So question number one, how many total votes are there in the Electoral College?
So if you know the answer to that, put that in the chat. And real quick, my internet dropped out, and I didn't hear what you said about the Yahtzee thing.
Well, I said what you probably expected me to say, that that my version is that you only remember it when you do get a Yahtzee after putting a zero, and it's happened many times where you did put a zero and did not get a Yahtzee. So it's classic confirmation bias. And again, I don't think this is an urban legend, but more of just a myth or something people believe that is not true. But it's more psychological than something like what's a good example that space aliens are stealing our kids and making them slaves.
Which, by the way, we've had this conversation so many times in the past, like so many times, to the point where if it happens, I'll yell out confirmation bias.
Okay, let's get on with the show.
Our next question is from Northern Jim, who says, any advice for a bounty style poker tournament, no limit hold'em? Is it best to lurk or ambush or to establish dominance early? A bounty is 1/5 of a buy-in, so it is good money.
Yeah, I love those bounties. I haven't played in that many poker tournaments where there is a bounty. Okay, but for the benefit of people who don't understand the question, sometimes in a poker tournament, certain people will have a bounty on their head. And if you take out that player, like you are the winner of a hand where that player goes bust, then you get his bounty. And like one time I played in a poker tournament at the MGM, and they had some MGM staff playing, and they were not like in it for the money. They just had bounties. So my strategy is really pretty obvious, is look for a bounty that's really low on chips, and then just be in those hands, even if you have mediocre hands, because you want to try to get the bounty on that player. So if you see anyone who's low on chips and in a hand, almost always be in that hand, just hoping to get their bounty. Because if you lose, you haven't hopefully sacrificed much because that player doesn't have many chips. But if you win, not only do you get the rest of their chips, but their bounty. But it can be a problem if you're with other skilled players doing the same thing, in which case you might have more competition for that bounty, in which case you should increase the hand you might need to try to get it. But ultimately, just use your best judgment. But yeah, in conclusion, I love bounties and will go after a weak player with a bounty rather aggressively.
Awesome. One more question, or do you want to do the answer to the trivia?
Let's do the answer to the trivia.
Okay. Is it 538?
Yes, it is. Give a point to Jack Ace. Okay, next question is an easy one. How is it determined how many votes each state gets?
Okay, so if you know the answer, put it in the chat. And our next question comes from Akar, who says, hello, what is the house edge of Mississippi Stud in the Corona odds? I hear they pay 5-1 for a straight.
Yeah, so, well, let's just go to my website to get the answer. But while I'm doing that, yes, the Barona has the only casino to have the liberal version of that pay table. So yay, Barona. And not just for that reason. The Barona is a great casino in general. All right, so I'm going to my site, Mississippi Stud. And frankly, you guys could do this yourself. So where is it? Okay, the Barona pay table. So this results in a house edge of 3.76%. And that is in comparison to the, what is it normally? I can find the Barona analysis easier than the base game. So normally it's 4.91. So there you go. It does offer a so it takes you from 4.91 to 3.76. So there you go. That's the answer to that question.
Awesome. Our next question comes from Computer versus Casino. Ever been to a Casino di Vienna's in Italy? What baccarat side bets do they offer, and how's the blackjack situation? Which, sorry for butchering all of the names.
I have never been to any casino in Italy, to be honest with you. I did go to various places in Italy last year, but it was on a cruise and I was with other people and frankly just didn't have time to go to any casinos. So sorry about that one.
Okay. We'll do one more. Otis says, assume a player has a 10% advantage on a specific slot machine at an 85% RTP casino. If he plays that game at a 90% RTP casino, will his advantage be 15%?
Yes, it would. Yeah, so I assume he has some kind of advantage play, which boosts the RTP by 25%. What it is, I have no idea. But yeah, indeed, 90% plus 25% is a player advantage of 15%.
Awesome. Okay, let's see if anyone has an answer to the trivia question. And is it 1 for each per senator, 2 per state, plus 1 based on population, 1 minimum per state?
Yep, that is truthful information. I would elaborate on that to say that it's one per representative of that state, and the number of representatives is proportional to the population. And there's some rather complicated rounding rules there, but that is the rule of thumb.
And Otis did say something similar to that.
Yes, but he forgot that you also count 2 for the 2 senators. Okay, so next question. Which 2 states are not winner take all? For example, most states, whoever wins that state gets all of the electoral votes for that state. But 2 of them can divide their representatives. Which 2 states do that?
So if you know that answer, put it in the chat. Also, if you have a question for Michael Shackelford, please put that in the chat as well. Our next question comes from Bharat that says, do you believe in dice control via craps?
Yeah, I've gotten this question many times, and the short answer is no. And the longer answer is I'm a little bit open-minded to it. And I have been saying for like 15 years, if you want to show me some legitimate evidence that anybody can do this, I'd be happy to see it. But nobody ever has. And but to argue against myself, some people say that what few people really can do this are trying to keep a low profile, and why would they draw attention to themselves by trying to convince me, which would be a good point. But nevertheless, I'm very skeptical of it. So there you go.
There are so many people on YouTube or that have books or have websites that are very public about it. So you would think that they would be more than happy to take you up on this.
Yeah, I've read Frank Scobletti's book, and in fact, I think I have it here. Where is it? Yeah. So Frank Scobletti wrote this book, The Craps Underground, the inside story about how dice controllers are winning millions from the casinos. And, it's basically a lot of stories, but there's hardly any numbers, it's very statistically badly written. It's not written to convince skeptics like me. It's just a lot of stories. And so, when I get like emails and messages on my forum all the time that say, and then whatever fanciful claim about craps. And I say, do you have any data that you've kept? You just are giving me a bunch of adjectives. And they never do. I would say that there's a lot of confirmation bias with these dice controllers, is they always remember when it goes their way and then conveniently forget when it doesn't. And, if anyone wants to show me tax returns as a professional gambler where they say the winnings are from craps and maybe give me a demonstration, I'd be all ears. And I am happy to write about any kind of a challenge that anyone wants to do. For example, there was a big challenge where Stanford Wong and a guy named Little Joe claimed that they could get more than, where's my calculator? They claimed that they could get more than, I think, like 90, or excuse me, that they could stay under 75 totals of 7 and 500 rolls. And, there was just thousands and thousands of dollars bet both ways by this, including by me. And he won that challenge, but he had a 1 in 3 chance of just winning the challenge based on dumb luck, which is what I claim happened. But I would love to get another challenge going, and I've been saying this for years, but nobody will take it up on me. But anyway, enough about that topic. Let's go on to the next question.
Okay. Our next question is from Jack Ace, who says, what is your criteria for selecting which online casinos you promote on your website? Are there sites that you refuse to work with or sites that you prefer?
So it's no big secret that I sold the Wizard sites, I think, in 2014. And so I don't have much say in the advertising anymore. When I did sell them, I asked for veto power against any advertiser I didn't like, and they agreed. And the number of times I have had to exercise that is zero. Well, maybe once. There's one time I had a bad experience with a casino called, what was it? I don't want to get this wrong. Shoot, it's on the tip of my tongue. I had a bad experience with a particular pretty big casino that took US players, and I asked that we not promote them, and they agreed. But otherwise, how they do it, I'm not really sure. But I will say that with the Wizard sites and Latest Casino Bonuses, which is our sister site, that we do try to advertise honorable casinos. And so, yeah. But how exactly they measure honorability, I'm not sure. But they care a lot about feedback. And at Latest Casino Bonuses, lcb.org, there's a very active forum about it, and where anybody can pitch a complaint about a casino, and they have a whole arbitration service. So yeah, that's about all I know about it.
Okay. Should we see if anyone has an answer to the trivia question?
Yes.
Okay. So is it Nebraska is one of them?
That's correct. What is the other?
Is it Nebraska and Ohio?
No.
We have another answer, but Nebraska is not in the answer, and I don't see any other results.
Okay, well, I will give those who said Nebraska half credit, and Hawaii and Texas are wrong. The other state is Maine.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Question 5 is what happens if no candidate gets a majority of the electoral votes? Which the most common situation that might happen is in an electoral college tie. If that happens, then what happens?
Okay, so if you know the answer to that, put that in the chat, the live chat. Our next one is more of a statement rather than a question. Mandatory thank you for the programming videos. I greatly appreciate them and look forward to the rest of your Ultimate Texas Hold'em videos.
Oh, I just released those. I just released a part 4, and I scheduled part 5 to be released. I don't remember exactly what day I scheduled that for, but it might be today, it might be tomorrow. But yeah, that was all processed a while ago, and I probably need to promote those over at Wizard of Odds, but they are there at YouTube right now. If you go directly to YouTube and go to my channel, The Odds Must Be Crazy.
Okay. So go check that out. Our next one is from Sakith, who says, are there any games where Advantage Play is still available, especially now since all the casinos are caught up to 2024?
Well, that's always a big question, and what everybody wants to know. And the latest Advantage Play has been on slot machines, and the latest version of my book, version 3, talks a lot about this, where there's a lot of slot machines that you vest into a bonus. And if the last player got close to a bonus and walked away, the next player can jump in, hit that bonus, and then walk away likely with a profit. So it's called slot vulturing, and my book explains how to do that with about a dozen different games. However, disadvantage play is out of the bag, and casinos are full of people walking around and looking for these plays. So it's tough to find anything anymore. And who knows? And there's usually the general public doesn't really know about an advantage play until it's kind of already been out there for a while. So maybe there's something else brewing right now that I don't know about. But there's still old ones you can do, like promotion abuse and taking advantage of casinos that comp too generously, going after dealer errors, things like that.
Okay. So our next question is from Northern Jim, who says, I get $50 of free slot play every week, including video poker. Slim pickings for vulturing, except must pay by X dollars. Given the tiny free bankroll, should I roll the dice on slot volatility or grind at video poker?
Okay, that's another advantage play that's already out of the bag. Is there's a lot of slot machines where there's what's called a mystery jackpot, where it just hits randomly without anything to do with the reels, and it must hit by some certain amount, like let's say $5,000. And if that jackpot is at 4,990, it is probably a good time to play it because it's so close to hitting. However, be warned that there's some machines that where it's pretty much impossible to hit the must hit buys until it gets real close, and my website has more information about that. But the must hit buys are something that slot vultures know a lot about, and it's tough to find anything good there anymore. But nevertheless, if you're out there anyway, I would just keep an eye open for that. And oh boy, I think that you'll find that the must hit buys are difficult to find in a good state. Therefore, like I said, I would keep one eye open for that. But if you don't find anything, then just stick to video poker.
Okay. Good answer. Good answer.
Thank you.
Yeah. One more question, or you want to do the trivia answer?
Trivia.
Okay. Is it the election goes to the House to vote?
That is true, but I would prefer to see how does the House vote on it. Can anyone else give me more detail?
Let's see. I saw a CGP Gray video on the Electoral College tie. Does the House get to break the tie?
Yes, again, the House breaks the tie, but how do they do it?
And I don't see anyone else other than that.
Okay, the way the House does it is each state gets a single vote, and it's so basically there's 50 votes, and whoever gets the most of those 50 votes wins the whole election. And I am not sure, like, how a state determines who gets that vote. For example, look at Nevada. We have 4 congressional districts. What if they split 2 and 2? Who gets Nevada's vote? That I am not exactly sure how they would do it. Yeah. And by the way, the Senate does the same thing to determine the vice president.
Has that ever happened in history?
That was actually another question I'm going to ask. Has there ever been an electoral college tie? And that is going to be the next question for the trivia.
So if you guys know the answer to that, put that in the chat. And our next gambling question comes from Mike Fixes Things. What are your thoughts on Mississippi stud with a progressive side bet? At the casinos I've played it, when you fold early, you forfeit your chance at the progressive bet. Is this a scam?
I mean, as long as they're telling the players the rules, then you can't really call it a scam. I think for something to be a scam, it has to be something where they withheld information from players, or they forced them to do something that they didn't want to do. So I would remind you that side bets in general are sucker bets. And regardless of this rule, I would not make that bet. But especially because they add this rule that if you fold, you lose it, I would especially not play it for that reason. But again, but it doesn't rise to the level to be called a scam, in my opinion.
Okay.
And that's my answer to that one.
And then the next one is not a question, more of a statement, but very interesting. Steven says UNLV built a throwing robot and proved you couldn't influence the outcome when hitting the back diamond.
Oh, well, I'd be interested to know more about that. I'm sure the skeptics would say that the robot just didn't have good enough skill, but yeah, that's maybe I will look into that after the show.
Ditto. I have a couple contacts at UNLV, and I could see they would probably know about that. That's the part of the alligator skin. Like, the alligator skin is there to make the dice random. Like, if you hit that alligator skin, that's the job of the alligator skin.
Well, the believers will say that they could put enough backspin on the dice and they hit exactly where the table touches the back wall. And they will say that the dice just come to a dead stop. And maybe sometimes they do, but I don't think that anybody has the skill to do that enough to overcome the house advantage.
Yeah. And if a robot can't do it, then why would a human be able to do it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, I don't know much about this robot, but that's my comment to that comment.
I'm going to find out. I'm going to write it down and I'm going to look into this.
Okay.
Our next one is from Mike Fixes Things. If you fold a 7 and a 2, the dealer shows 777. You don't win the progressive, even though you bet on it. So that was from his last one.
Yeah, I get it.
Next is from Northern Jim, who says, small AP win. I noticed a tiny scratch on the back of the King of Clubs at Ultimate Texas Hold'em and spotted it twice in the community or dealer's cards before they replaced the deck. Never touched it myself, saved $40.
Okay. Yeah, that's basically taking advantage of marked cards. So since you didn't mark the card yourself, you did nothing wrong legally. So, good for you.
Next one. For the next big AP, I'd bet $1. It will be Ruby Bet at Baccarat with my homemade count. I do it quite well. Okay, that's more of a statement. Here we go. Here's one. Saketh says, for Mega Millions or Powerball or other lotteries, at what point does purchasing the ticket is worth it? Can you explain the EV calculation?
All right. So for Powerball and Mega Millions, it never becomes positive because of jackpot sharing. And in fact, I find the best time to play it is with a jackpot of about $500 million, but even there, it's significantly negative. And the EV goes down as the jackpot goes up because of increased competition and jackpot sharing. And I can't comment on every single lottery, but every single progressive has this issue where if it weren't for jackpot sharing, at some point it would become positive. But I think that lottery players do tend to keep an eye on every progressive lottery and kind of have a feel for when those jackpots are unusually big, and it just incentivizes more demand. So I don't think that going after progressive lotteries is a good play. In fact, I think it's probably in general quite a bad one.
Okay. One more question, and then we'll see what people are saying about the trivia question. Have you ever considered posting your gambling analysis code to share with the public on a site like GitHub?
No, I've been meaning to post somewhere my Ultimate Texas Hold'em code that I develop in my videos, but I'm just not quite sure where to put it. And if I put it like on one of the wizard sites and give a link to it, YouTube will penalize me because they hate links. I should probably just put it on a cloud server somewhere. Anyway, but I'll look into that site after the show.
Sounds good. Okay, let's see what the answer is to this trivia question. Jack Ace says there has never been a tie.
Nope, there was.
There was. Okay. I think this is an answer, state by state.
No, I'm looking for a number or a year. I don't think anyone's going to know this one. It was a tough one. Okay,
Nope.
The answer is it happened one time in the year 1800, and it did get thrown to the House, and the House had multiple different votes, and they had a different procedure back then. And, I think it went through many, many votes until they settled the issue, and there was something complicated about Aaron Burr's vote, and, it's a whole long, complicated story I don't really understand. But it did happen again in the year 1800. Okay, so next question. So as you know, as was mentioned earlier, a state gets congressional representatives according to its population. So how did they treat slaves for purposes of counting a state's population per what's called the Great Compromise of 1787?
So if you know the answer to that, put that in the chat. Our next gambling question, and if you have a gambling question, please put it in the live chat, comes from Dalbrickson, who says, I always try to drink a greater value of beers than my losses. Does that count as an AP?
Well, I'm sure he's just joking, but I'm not sure I understand the joke. So I'll take that more as a rhetorical question and not comment.
Okay. Our next one is from Saketh, who says, did you ever get into credit card points and reward calculations and award travel?
No, a lot of people have said I should get into that. And I have a friend who is big into exploiting airline point programs, which are heavily tied to credit cards. And he seems to fly on business class all over the place, and especially Dubai, and stays in fancy hotels. And he says he really does it all quite cheaply by taking advantage of weaknesses in these programs. But I have not bothered to really look into the details of how to do it. It seems rather complicated. I think there's some website called the Points Guy where he gets into it, but that's about but the short answer there is no.
Our next one is from DDSWH1PK0S. Woohoo! Hello from Australia. Mike, when was the last time you were here, and do you have any plans to come back in the future?
Well, thanks for asking. I've been there twice, and the last time was several years ago. I would put it around 2017, and no plans to return, say, next year. I would like to. I've always wanted to travel like across Australia, west to east, or the other way. Just haven't, like do a nice like month-long Australia trip. but just haven't been able to. It's kind of one of those things I'm planning to do after I fully retire.
What is your next big out of country trip going to be?
Well, I it might be doing Mount Kilimanjaro. Actually,
Wow.
I might be doing that in early 2025, and probably would add on a trip to Zanzibar. And yeah, that's something that's percolating right now. And yeah, so that I would say there's a 50% chance I'm going to be doing that.
Well, if you ever need a travel assistant.
Well, are you willing to climb it?
Oh God, no, I would die. Are you kidding me? You would be dragging my body up and down that mountain because I would be dead.
Okay, well, sorry to hear that. Otherwise, I'd have been happy to have you.
Thanks. Our next one is more of a statement about GitHub. Be aware that people always ask for support and complain about bugs. It's really time consuming and infuriating.
Thanks for the warning.
Should we see if anyone has an answer to the trivia?
Yes.
Okay, Jack A says 3/8 of a citizen.
No, it is a fraction, though.
Is it 1/3 of the vote?
Nope.
And is it the 3/5 compromise?
Yes, Stephen gets a point. Each slave counted as 3/5 of a person. So, next question will be, how many faithless electors were there in the 2016 election? And as a reminder, the way it works is each state gets so many electoral votes, but they have to actually assign a particular individual for each vote. And this person will actually submit a vote. And in 2016, most states, these electors were not required to vote for who the state told them to vote for. And if you do not follow orders and vote for somebody else, that's called being a faithless elector. So the question again was, how many faithless electors were there in the 2016 election?
So if you guys know the answer to that, put that in the chat. Also, if you have a question for Michael Shackelford, please put that in the chat as well. Our next question, gambling question, comes from Delbrickson, who says, jackpot sharing, it's more of a statement. Long ago, I bought lottery tickets and picked prime number pairs because they wouldn't be popular. I stopped when I realized I'd be sharing the jackpot with thousands of other mathematicians.
I love prime numbers too. But I think the vast majority of players get quick picks. So I don't think there's a way to fool jackpot sharing by picking certain numbers, because yeah, you're still going to have to go against quick pick players. So anyway, that's my comment to your comment.
Do you ever pick numbers for a jackpot, and how do you decide what numbers you're going to use?
I just get quick picks. And you might be surprised that I would even play the lottery, but sometimes I'm in a state that has the Powerball or Mega Millions, and the jackpot is high. Nevada does not have the lottery, by the way. And she will ask me to get some, so I will, with much shame, buy some quick picks.
Okay, so I shouldn't be running out there getting like a jackpot ticket or something like that, right?
Nope. As I said earlier, the Mega Millions and Powerball are never positive. They're always a horrible bet. So my simple advice is just never play them, and never play the lottery in general.
How does it compare to the megabucks?
How does what compare to the megabucks?
The number with the lottery compared to the number with megabucks.
I don't understand the question. What are you
is your chance of winning the lottery better or worse than your chance of winning the megabucks?
Well, the Megabucks is a lottery, so the chances of winning the Mega Millions is about 1 in 300 million. And there's so many different lottery games that I would need to know specifically which one you want me to compare it to.
Okay. Next gambling question.
Yep.
Okay, it is. There we go. Grace asks, do you think that a game like Pai Gow Tiles could be made today, as in a new casino game that doesn't use cards and requires learning a complicated ranking system or houseway?
No, no, that would be a perfect example of a game that would never make it because the rules for that game are so complicated that it takes like 2 hours to explain the rules. And, nobody would have the patience to learn the game. So the only reason it survives is it has been played in China for like 1,000 years, and that Asian population just has a natural knowledge of the game.
Craps would be in the same.
Yeah.
Topic.
Craps actually started as a much simpler version with basically just the pass bet, and that is fairly easy to explain. But with all the added bets, if nobody knew what craps was in an alternate universe, and you brought craps to try to sell it, and people would just laugh in your face. Nobody was going to play such a complicated, game.
But in this multiverse,
like I said, it's already been out there, so people have just been exposed to it and just know it.
Would any of the other big name games that we know be put in that category?
Let's see. Can't think of any off the top of my head. The rest of them are pretty, I think, can be explained fairly easily.
Our next one comes from, let's see. It's a comment. Vlad says, "What's up, Michael? You are a legend in the gambling community."
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the compliment.
Next question is from Jack Ace. Regarding your retirement, what would the transition to your successor realistically look like? And what would be some qualifications you would look for in your successor?
Yeah, that's a good question. I have put it out there that somebody's going to eventually have to fill my shoes, or I guess doesn't have to, but there will be those shoes to fill. I put this forth to my son, but he doesn't seem to have the same gifting that I do with casino games. But it very well may very well happen that I just kind of fade into obscurity like most people, with really nobody to hand the torch to. So, that's probably is going to be how it goes.
When you sold your website, isn't that technically like handing the torch over? Because then you're going to have someone who is able to keep that up and live and going.
Well, I'm sure that they will keep the site up and live and going, but there's not going to be anyone like me adding content about new games, like good mathematical content that I know of. Who knows? Maybe they'll find somebody. And I just get besieged with comments about there's a little error here and a little error there. And much of my time is spent just upkeeping content that's already out there. And if anyone tries to fill my shoes, they are going to hate getting these comments because they don't know how I did all my math. And anyway, so my shoes are not going to be easy ones to fill. So we'll just have to, see what happens there.
Cool. Okay. So for the answer to the trivia question, Is the answer to the trivia question 8?
Nope.
No?
No, it is not.
Is it 0?
Nope.
And that's all we got.
No, the answer is 10. And as a follow-up question, of those 10 votes, one person got 3 votes of those 10 faithful electors. So who was it? In other words, who came in third in the 2016 election?
Well, if you guys know the answer to that, put that in the chat. Let's see what we have for our next question. Mike Fixes Things says, in Canada, our max million lottery, once the jackpot hits, is 50 million, and they start adding many $1 million draws. So it has a grand prize draw for 50 million and can have 30 extra 1 million draws. Is this a good value?
I don't know enough about it to give a strong yes or no answer, but I would suggest that as the jackpot gets way over 50 million, it just induces more competition, and they probably have the same kind of jackpot sharing rule there. But I'm going to write this down, the Max Millions Lottery. So maybe I will write about that in the future. So sorry I couldn't be much more help with that one.
And then our next question comes from Steven, who says, if we happen to see you in Las Vegas, can we say a quick hello?
Sure, yeah, I like it when people do that.
How often does it happen? Probably a lot, right?
Not as much as it used to, because I don't hang around in casinos that much. But I would say, like 3 or 4 times a year.
Okay. If you guys have a question you would like to ask Michael Shackelford, speak now or forever hold your peace. I got a question for you. Inventors, when you invent something, they normally say, find the problem and then find a way to solve that problem. So what problem exists in the casino industry that casino game inventors would look for and try to solve?
Okay. Well, a good example of that is the 5% commission on the banker bet and baccarat. And game inventors thought, casinos could get many more hands per hour if dealers didn't have to fuss with this 5% commission. So they introduced commission-free baccarat, as well as commission-free poker. So that was a good problem that game inventors found a way to fix. So what is another problem that could be fixed? Off the top of my head, I can't think of one, because if I did see something obvious, I would have invented my own game to fix it already. And there's not too many problems to go after. So most new casino games are not trying to fix a problem, but just trying to come up with a game that they think is more fun. And sometimes they are, but usually they fail. So anyway, there's my answer to that one.
Okay. Our next gambling question comes from, it's more of a statement rather than a question. Northern Jim, really grateful for your insights over the years. When the table is too crowded or has a bad ambience, I can easily move to another game and do well. Thanks to you.
You're very welcome.
Steven says nobody has fixed Pai Gow tile commissions.
That's a good point. I never thought of that. That's a good point. But to that, I would say there's so few Pai Gow tile games left that casinos are, that game is quickly going the way of the dodo bird. And I think this is like trying to save, a game that's almost dead. Kind of like, what's the point? And furthermore, tiles is such a slow game anyway that the 5% commission doesn't really slow it down that much, because there's so many other things that slow it down more. So yeah, again, good point, but I don't think that coming up with commission-free payout tiles is a viable business idea. But then again, I've done before.
My question to the audience is, what problems do you see that you think need to be fixed? Our next question is from Grace, who says, why do you think Baccarat is so dominant in California casinos? Over here, it tends to have more tables than Blackjack, Ultimate Texas Hold'em, and three-card poker combined.
I will say that the LA area casinos, if that's what you're referring to, get a lot of Asian players, and they just like baccarat, and usually the California casinos with the table games do cater to high limit players, because there is a $1 per hand fee to play. So it's really kind of ridiculous to pay that fee if you're only betting, say, $25. That's 4%, a 4% fee just to play, not to mention the house advantage. So yeah, so again, baccarat attracts Asian players, and it attracts high limit players, both of which the LA area has a lot of. And if you're referring to more of the general Indian casinos like the Barona, there I would say that you see a similar mix here to Las Vegas, but I haven't studied it carefully. And that is my answer to that one.
Okay. Our next question is a statement, and they said, Northern Jim said, the wizard will live forever in the Inside the Edge movie.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I went to a wedding in June and in Washington State, and there was the brother of the bride said, I saw you. You were in that movie. And I said, oh, was it Inside the Edge? Yes. And he was just so excited. He thought a celebrity was playing. Yeah. So I have been in, I think 4 movies now. And yeah, and I have a listing at the Internet Movie Database, which I'm very proud of.
Wow.
So yeah. But
that's impressive.
It's my favorite movie that I've been in.
Which one?
Inside the Edge.
Nice. Shall we see who has an answer to the trivia?
Yes.
Was it Gary Johnson?
Nope.
Was it Kanye West?
Nope.
Was it Bernie Sanders?
No, but he did get one faithless elector, but he didn't get 3.
Okay, those are the 3 we got.
Okay, no, the answer is Colin Powell. Colin Powell got 3 faithless electors, and I think I'm just going to recite the rest of the trivia because we're running out of time. One of them was, how many votes does Washington, D.C. get? They get 3. Why is it 3? It's because they get the same number they would get if they were a state. So they would get 2 for the 2 senators and 1 as the minimum number of representatives. Let's see. Okay, so another one is besides, so the only time that a woman has won any electoral votes in U.S. history happened in both 2016. Of course, Hillary Clinton got a lot of them, but my question would have been, what other woman got electoral votes in the 2016 election? And the answer is Faith Spotted Eagle, a Native American woman who got 1 vote from a faithless elector out of Washington state. Okay, and I was going to ask, and you guys should know this from the how about the contested election from 2024, 2020, is what is the process if a state's electors are contested? So what happens there is, before 2022, is at least one member of the House of Representatives and at least one senator had to put in writing that they contest a specific state's count. And if this happens, then it's supposed to go to both chambers of Congress, and then they vote on it. And then if there is a majority in both halves of Congress, then those votes basically get eliminated. So in 2020, this happened, I believe, with Georgia and Arizona. They did get one senator to sign on to both those states, but because it was 3 a.m, they decided to just do a quick vote right there and then in the Senate chamber, and they only let the Senate vote because they knew that it would fail, which it did in both cases. But yeah, that is the process. But they changed it in 2022 to say that now 1/5 of a state's representatives must put in writing that they contest a particular state's votes. Because in 2020, there were some representatives, probably like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who contested a lot of different states, but nothing happened because they couldn't get a senator to go along with it. So, and yeah, that I believe covers my Electoral College trivia. And with that, I see, are there any burning questions you want to ask me from the audience, Heather?
Are we going to have Halloween trivia on Halloween?
We will probably have some kind of trivia. I didn't plan to write Halloween trivia, but if you do, we're welcome to ask that. But I may have trivia on another topic.
On Halloween?
Well, to be perfectly honest, I hate to ruin the surprise, but it's probably Father Michael is going to make an appearance, and he only does Bible trivia.
Isn't that sacrilege to do that on Halloween?
Why?
Because religion and Halloween don't go well together?
Sure they do. Father Michael believes that he should try to bring love and truth to the world 365 days a year. And he makes no exception for Halloween. In fact, he likes Halloween.
Northern Jim says, is there going to be a Halloween magic trick?
Gosh, I haven't done a magic trick in a while. Yeah, I haven't been in a magic mood lately, so I'm just going to have to give you a maybe to that one.
Okay. Well, so our next live stream will be on, I want you to say it. You always say it.
October 31st.
Okay, cool. You can't ruin that tradition. You always say it.
I forgot there was a tradition, but
well, we look forward to seeing you guys there. We're going to be dressed up, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, join us.
Yep. Okay. Thanks, Heather, and thanks, audience, for all your questions and comments.
Thank you. As always, it's always so much fun doing these with you.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.